Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone can see my screen. To all those tuning in, welcome to our first Full Circle online webinar. This is our first one of the week. We've got about 20 people at the moment, so I think we're going to wait a few minutes to see if a few more people trickle in. Yeah, I thought I'd just introduce Full Circle first of all. Full Circle is a physical event which DO Wakefield started a couple of years ago, and the idea was to connect producers, exporters, cooperative, and roasters. The idea was to we feel like we work with some really amazing people across the supply chain, and the objective was to share that knowledge and kind of be a catalyst to bring people together. So unfortunately, because of COVID-19, our physical event, which was supposed to be this Friday, which actually coincides with DO Wakefield's 50th birthday, unfortunately because of COVID, it was cancelled. So rather than let that stop us, we've decided to bring those talks online, and today is the first one. So I thought I'd manage Gabriel. He's the head of quality and partnerships at Daterra. DO Wakefield is the UK agent for Daterra, and it's a relationship we're very proud of. As you'll find out later, if you don't already know, Daterra is a real pioneer and innovator in coffee. We're very proud to work with them. And about a couple of weeks ago, I was chatting to Gabriel about just generally how's life in coffee and Brazil. And it seems that COVID-19 has had quite a large impact in Brazil per capita when compared to other countries. And since there's such a big crop predicted in Brazil, which some people say it's going to be the biggest crop on record, we thought this would be quite a good presentation to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen, which is Gabriel's presentation, and pass the mic to Gabriel. So let me just find it first. There we go. Can you see that, Gabriel? Or not yet?
I can, yes.
Okay. So I think it's now 3 minutes past. I think we can probably kick off now if you're ready.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay. Hi everyone. Thank you very much for being here and watching this presentation. First of all, happy anniversary, dear Wakefield. Thank you very much for the opportunity to have us here. We're very proud of the partnership we have with you guys. We have been working with DR Wakefield for over 15 years now, and it's one of the relationships that we have around the world that we are really proud of. It's great to have you guys bringing our coffee to Europe and spreading over the world, all over the world. So thank you very much for letting us talk a little bit in your event. Hopefully next time we're gonna be all together and seeing each other and sharing a cup of coffee as we talk more about coffee challenges and future of coffee in the next Full Circle event. Okay, so to start, Henry, as he introduced already, asked me to talk a little bit about how the COVID is actually impacting this super crop we're gonna have in Brazil this year. As you said, it's going to be a very relevant crop this year, and it culminates exactly in the moment where the COVID outbreak is really huge in Brazil right now. So I'm going to give you a little overview of how and the farmers are addressing the situation, and also I'm going to give you a deeper detail on how the Daterra is addressing this. Once this is the big moment for us, we wait all year to make this happen, to make harvest happen. So we are doing lots of different measures to make sure we're going to be able to harvest our coffee and deliver the beans that everyone is waiting for on the 2020 crop. Okay, so can you pass the next slide, please? Okay, so just a little bit of information on the 2020 crop production in Brazil. As Henry said, this is going to be a very big crop. Actually, it's the biggest crop on record for Brazilian production. The forecast that was released is that we're going to have around 67.9 million bags of coffee produced this year, compared to last year when we had 59.3 million bags. It's quite an increase in terms of volume. From those 67 million bags, 47 million is Arabica coffee, and around 20 million is Robusta production. So many people don't know that, but Brazil does produce Robusta, but Arabica is still the biggest production that we have here in the country, and we're gonna have a very big production this year as well. In fact, the forecasts are still being issued right now. It's still a forecast. We are not done with the harvest yet. So the harvest season goes from beginning to mid of May until mid August, pretty much. So we still have 2 months more to go of coffee harvesting, so we can have the final numbers and really assess how much coffee we have produced here in the country. But at this point, the forecast should be quite accurate in terms of the quantity we're going to be producing. The reason why we're going to have such a big crop is because actually we had very good weather conditions in most parts of Brazil. In most producing regions of Brazil, the rains and the temperatures were good, and also combined with that, we also are in the high production year in the biennial cycle. For those who don't know, usually you have a low production year, which is the low cycle year, and the high production year, and this repeats year in and year out every 2 years. So we are in the high year of the biennial cycle, which made already us, we already expect a bigger production volume this year. And with these good weather conditions, this all culminated in a very big crop that we're going to have this year. So it should be a very good year for Brazilian producers regarding that. But as I said, the harvest culminated right when the COVID outbreak really started in Brazil. We started having the first cases around March, and then this started catching up very fast and spreading over the country very, very fast. Actually, Brazil right now, when you think about the COVID numbers, has some very concerning numbers. We are, right now we are over 1 million people infected, registered people infected with the virus, and over 50,000 people already dead because of the virus. So we are ranking as second in the world on those two statistics. It's not a very good place to be at the moment, and because we have the harvest happening right now, this created lots of concern, because coffee is such an important agri product for Brazil, and especially when you think about the coffee growing areas, many cities, many municipalities, and many states, they really rely on coffee for their income and for their economy to function. So all those states, those cities, they are taking lots of different measures to make sure we're going to be able to harvest the coffee and use this super crop positively to impact our economy, especially because we are not in a very good economical place right now. As you probably are following up on the news, Brazil is going through a huge political crisis that also creates some economical crisis as well. So it's not the best scenario to get to have a pandemic situation combined with all those things. And as coffee producers, we are hopeful that we can kind of bend the situation and be able to produce the coffee just as we expect and make a good crop out of this, make lemonade out of the lemons, pretty much. Okay, can you go to the next slide, please? So just giving you an overview of what are the risks, what are the challenges that COVID-19 represents on coffee growing areas. So first of all is lack of labor. Because of COVID, many coffee producers in many different regions of Brazil are facing difficulties to find people to work on the fields, to pick the coffee, or to drive the tractors, or to do any kind of activities that are related to the coffee harvesting. And why is that? First of all, we rely usually on the coffee growing areas. Of course, we always hire people that are from the region where we are producing the coffee, but many producers actually rely on people that come from other states. There are people in Brazil, and as in many other different countries, that work in specific crops in different times of the year. So those people, they travel around pretty much working on the crop that is being harvested at that time. And if the coffee here in Brazil is the same, in our farm, for example, we get lots of people coming from northeastern part of Brazil, and they come down to Minas Gerais, in Cerrado, where we are located, and we always bring around 120 people to work just on the harvesting activities that we have at the farm. And producers all over Brazil, they are having lots of trouble to find people. First of all, because some people, they are scared of traveling right now. They don't want to travel and be exposed to the risks of getting COVID, especially because the people that work on those positions, they don't have a very good healthcare and they don't have access to good public health systems. So they are either trying to preserve their health and safety, or of their families as well. And then it's difficult to, there are less people willing to travel around the country to work on coffee growing areas. Also because lots of producers, lots of pickers and people that work on harvesting, they are already elderly people that are on the risk group of actually getting serious results coming from COVID. So because of that, we are having some trouble as producers in general all over the country to find people. Also, one thing that is happening here is the government has, and it's a little bit of socio-political kind of information, the government here has released some packages to support people that are unemployed during this time. So government is paying some money for people that actually have no jobs right now. And many of the people that work in harvests, they are not registered, they don't have a fixed job. They work as temporary workers in many different countries, many different products while they are harvesting that specific good. So when they are unemployed, they can get the benefit from the government, right? So some people that are preferring to get the benefit from the government because that's something that they can be sure they're gonna get, and work for farms that don't register them officially. Because once you get registered officially with the government as an employee, even if it's temporary, you lose benefit from the government. So there are some farms in Brazil that are not registered workers because they don't have to pay the taxes to the government, which is not a correct thing to do. And for the farms that are doing this correctly, meaning hiring people, registering them as employees, paying the taxes to the government, if they do that, those workers, they don't get the benefit. So some workers, they are preferring to get the benefit and working for farms that are not registering them. But this is a huge risk. It's not correct. In the case of Daterra, we don't accept to hire anyone if it's not officially registered according to the law. And this is something that farms that are doing things right, they are having trouble to find people because some people that are preferring to get both the salary unofficially and the benefit. Also, lack of transport. As you might know, the farms, they are very far away from the cities, the urban centers. So you have to transport these people either from the regions where they are originally to the farm area. And if they are staying in the city, your current workers, like the fixed workers or the temporary workers as well, you have to transport them back and forth to the farms. And because of the COVID situation, also there are farms that are having to double their number of vehicles, of buses, pretty much, to be able to transport people more isolated from each other with some social distancing inside of the buses. So there is a huge lack of transportation all over the country. Farmers are not being able to hire transportation to carry workers, which is also another logistical problem that might impact their ability to harvest the coffee on time. Also, there are many farmers that are having trouble with maintenance of farm equipment because they rely on maybe sending these machines to the city, or having technicians and people that fix the machines from the city to the farms. And while you're harvesting, machines break all the time. So you have to be able to fix this as fast as possible to have the machine working and back on the field doing what it's supposed to be doing as fast as possible. And there is a challenge there because farmers are not finding the people to do the maintenance as fast as they need during this situation. In our case, in Daterra, we are not facing lots of issues there because we have our maintenance structure. We have a garage inside of the farm with workers that can fix this, and we are respecting all the we are doing everything we have to do to make sure that these people are safe while they are doing what they are doing at the farm. I will explain a little bit more to you later. So having all these things said, there is a risk of lower quality and lower production due to COVID in many parts of Brazil. And pretty much, if you don't have enough labor to harvest the coffee, you might have to enlarge, to widen your harvesting window. So in many regions where they are highly dependent on hand harvesting, for example, when you talk about the south of Minas Gerais or Matas de Minas region, and other places in Brazil where you have more hilly topography, and you harvest coffee from the mountains, from the hills, you need people to harvest this coffee. If you don't have enough labor, if you would be harvesting your coffee in 2 months, if it's a small farmer, for example, a smaller farmer, you're gonna have to do it over 4 months. And in many of those areas, you have, at the end of the harvest season, you already have some rains coming up. And then if you have rain with coffee already on the trees, that might be a huge problem, because you can drop the cherries, they go to the ground, and that lowers your quality because the coffee already gets muddy, and you lose some of the coffee already because of that. You lose some of the beans on the mud, on the hills, and that might impact the quality and the production of the coffee because of all these 3 specific topics that are challenges during this COVID outbreak here in Brazil. Next, please. So some measures that the country is doing right now to ensure that the harvest is going to be done and Brazil is going to be able to perform what is supposed to do for this to work is several states that are in producing areas. They are trying to work very closely with the producers and instructing those producers on how to be safe and to guarantee they're going to be able to harvest the coffee. So for example, in Minas Gerais state and some other producing states in Brazil, the government has issued some booklets with recommendations for producers on how to harvest the coffee, how to transport workers, how to hire workers, what kinds of actions they should take, and what they should change in the way they harvest the coffee and all their operations to make sure their workers are safe and that they will be able to harvest the coffee and that they will not be spreading the virus to other people. So there is a huge work in terms of education and instructing producers on how to make this work in many different growing states in Brazil, because again, especially in the growing states, Brazil is such a huge country, but the places where coffee is grown is usually a very important product, and they should be taking care and making sure that this product that so many people rely on the money that comes from that will be able to develop their work. Also, in many areas of Brazil, you are being asked to register or apply to get your workers prior to bringing your workers to the farm. So in the past, you would just pretty much hire the worker. It would be a worker company relationship. You hire the worker, you have the worker work in your farm harvesting the coffee. Of course, everything registered and official, but you didn't have to apply or to register your worker prior to bringing him. You could do that right in the moment that this was going to start. So now they have created this extra step to more to control and understand how many people are coming from other states, how many people are coming from other regions to work in that specific growing area, in that specific coffee growing city, on the coffee harvesting or coffee related activities, so they can control if something is going south, if something's not going the way it should be going. They can control that or say, okay, we cannot get any more people coming in, or control this in some way. Also, local authorities are really trying to keep people that are on the field. So the farms are usually far from the city. There is always a city closer to the farm, but in the cities, of course, you are more exposed. And the governments, the local authorities, they are trying to keep people on the field, because on the field they're more protected, they're safer, they're more isolated. So we are not having huge cases of COVID in the growing areas up to now. So the biggest numbers, they are actually in the huge, big urban centers like São Paulo City, Rio, the capitals all over Brazil, and some other specific big cities around the country. But then when you go to this smaller farm towns, the numbers, they are more controlled. Usually when people identify that someone has COVID, it's somehow easier to keep this person on social distancing, isolated from everyone else. So the numbers are lower. And when you talk about the field, they are even more isolated. So keeping them on the field is one of the measures that the authorities are trying to do to make sure that they are safe and they are able to work. And there is more fiscalization happening because of that, because the authorities, they want to make sure that those farmers, those producers, they are actually doing what they are supposed to do to keep workers safe and to keep harvesting the coffee without any huge issues that might arise from that. And this is also for the farmers that are doing what I said, not registering workers. They probably can get in trouble because of that, which is the right thing to happen, right? Okay, next, please. So talking about Daterra, what strategies that we are implementing at Daterra, at the farm, to make sure that we don't have a huge issue because of COVID, and how we are making sure that we are being able to harvest the coffee and give this coffee, share this coffee with the world later this year. We actually have something, Daterra, that is very important, and it's part of the company culture, it's part of the farm culture. We are very much into planning ahead. So we started discussing the risks of COVID back in December already, when it was still isolated pretty much in China. It was not a huge issue all over the world. We already knew this was going to happen. Our CEO Luis, he's very much into planning ahead and understand what is happening in the world and how that can impact us here in Brazil. So in January, we already started doing some meetings with all the farm team, all the managers for mechanization, quality, the agronomists, everyone, to understand what could we do when COVID arrived here, because we were sure this was going to happen. So in January, we started those meetings, those conversations, and in February, we already had 4 different scenarios drawn and very well established of what we would do to address the challenges that COVID would impose to us. So those 4 scenarios, we have pretty much detailed everything that could happen, that could impact us, and every possible challenge we would face due to COVID. 4 scenarios being the 4th one, the most pessimistic one. Most pessimistic, okay, we have a huge outbreak here in the city where we are. We cannot have workers on the field. We're gonna have to leave the coffee on the trees for longer, and this will have to maybe lower the quality a little bit. to the most optimistic scenario, which is, okay, there is COVID happening in the country. Our city was not so much impacted, and people are being able to work with some safety measures to make sure workers are healthy and safe during their activities and operation. So we have those four scenarios very well established. The whole company and the whole team knows what to do, regardless of what of those scenarios really comes to be the reality that we are facing. Luckily, the scenario that we are facing is the most optimistic one. That's what is actually happening right now, which is the country has an outbreak. The country is not in a very good situation right now, but the city where we are, the situation is quite controlled there. We have only around 50 cases registered of COVID in the city. Of course, we should be careful and take care of people so this doesn't become a much bigger problem. And we are being able to do everything as the plan says, as our map to address this says. And when we started doing these plans and everything, we already started to do some campaigns with workers. We know that many of the workers that are working with us, especially the pickers and people that are at the farm doing different kinds of activities, sometimes they don't have as much access to information as we do. And it was very important to make them aware of the problem and how to address this so they would be safe and keep their family safe. So still in February, March, when the numbers were still rising on the big cities, not where they are, we were already making lots of campaigns with our company doctors, the company nurses, and the whole human resources team to make them understand that this was an issue and they should try to keep themselves safe and their families as well. And this has helped a lot, because when people listen and learn about the problem, it's easier for them to understand how they should behave to keep themselves safe and keep their colleagues safe as well. And we have also distributed lots of sanitary kits to all workers, for the workers and their families. So everyone could take some sanitary kits still in the beginning of the outbreak home and also pass on the information to their families. And this has been working very well. And we didn't have any cases of COVID in our farms until now with our workers. And we believe that these whole educational campaigns were very important for that. Next, please. So other things that we have done, we have implemented at the farm to make sure that we are able to do what we have to do is we have brought less people this year than we usually bring to the farm. So I told you that we usually would bring 120 people to the farm for harvesting activities. The major activity would be pretty much harvesting coffee, picking the coffee, and these people come from northeastern part of Brazil. So this year we have brought only 60 people. So it's half of what we would bring normally. And in our plannings, in our maps, we have already thought very well through everything that we should change in our harvesting, in our processing units to make sure we would be able to harvest and process more coffee without damaging the quantity and the quality, but with less people. And we are doing that. So bringing less people was one of the measures we took to make sure we didn't have as many people traveling around the country to work at the farm. Also, we have increased payment for pickers at the farm. So as I said, there are some people that are preferring to get the benefit from the government and not being registered. We don't do that. We register everyone. So to be more attractive and make sure that we will be able to bring more pickers to the farm, even though some people don't want to be registered, how to attract those people? Okay, we will register you because we do things according to the law, but we're gonna pay you more. So if you were expecting to get the government benefit, we're not getting it because we're registered, but we are paying you more money for the coffee you harvest. So by doing that, we were able to attract more workers and make sure we have the quantity of people that we need, the team to harvest the coffee. Also, some basic stuff that we are doing, like when we bring people from the city to the farm, we check temperature of everyone, before getting to the bus. People that get to the farm gate, the workers that come with their own cars, at the farm gate, everyone is checked as well to make sure that nobody with a fever or with any kinds of symptoms, they are going to the bus. The workers that drive those buses and at the farm gate, they were also trained by our medical team to be able to spot any, to see any symptoms that would make this person to be a risk to the other workers that we have on the farm. So this is working very well as well. We have twice as many buses to transport people. So the way we are doing, people are not sitting together. They have to be sitting in alternated seats. So we have some kind of social distancing happening inside of the buses as well. And this has been helping a lot. All the common areas in the farm, like the cafeteria, for example, they are closed. So all the workers, they are getting their lunches in lunch boxes, and they either eat in some specific place of the farm, but not in groups. So we make sure people, they're not close together very much. Everyone has to be using face masks from the office team to the mechanical team to the harvesting team. We have given masks for all the workers for free, together with the sanitary kits and for families as well. And also the lodgings for the workers that come from other city and that they stay in the lodgings in the farm. We are working with half capacity in the lodgings, so we don't have more than 2 people in every room, and that helps a lot to keep people safer as well. Next, please. So talking about Brazil again, for coffee production and impacts in Brazil in general, what conclusions we have. So producers, they're gonna have higher costs for harvesting this year. Okay, this is gonna be a huge crop, it's gonna be a big crop in Brazil, but the costs are gonna be higher as well. And the reason why that's gonna happen is because, especially in the areas where you have to transport people, you have to increase salaries to make sure you have workers coming. That's going to increase the cost of production this year. So if you are paying more for the workers, if you have to double your capacity of transportation to keep people isolated inside of the buses, all of that is going to create higher costs that you were not expecting. The fact also that you have to have someone checking temperature on the farm gate and doing all these campaigns and distributing sanitary kits, that's going to make the production costs, the harvesting costs higher for the producers this year, and they were not expecting that. But this is something that people have to do if they want to harvest the coffee and make sure they're going to be able to perform correctly. Also, the areas that have a high dependence on hand harvesting, like I said, the hilly areas of Brazil, South of Minas Gerais, Matas de Minas, Espírito Santo, and other states that you have a hilly topography and you harvest coffee from the hills. On those places, they're going to probably have some impacts in terms of quality and volume, because again, those places that would be harvesting coffee in 2-3 months, they're probably having to do that in 4 or 5 months now, and that's going to impact for sure their ability to harvest the coffee on time to guarantee the quality, and maybe in some cases to harvest the coffee before the rains come, because when the rains start coming, you have for sure an impact in terms of the quality and the quantity you're going to be able to harvest from the trees. Other things that are happening in Brazil right now, because of the political crisis we are facing and the economical crisis we are facing, our Brazilian real, our currency, is very devaluated. So because of that, this might incentivize the exports from Brazil. For exporters, it's good to be able to get some extra money because of exchange right now. But on the other hand, these higher exchange rates are gonna also increase the cost for agricultural inputs. So when it's time for producers to fertilize and for producers to apply defensives to the coffee, they're gonna have to pay more because those products, they are all quoted in foreign currency. And that's gonna also increase their costs for the coffee that's gonna come on the next season. And that also impacts how much they pay for farm equipment, farm infrastructure, and this is gonna for sure impact all producers in Brazil, ourselves as well. Next, please. And now going back to Daterra, talking about explain what we are doing here and how we are addressing the situation. So we are seeing that the measures we have been taking, they are working very well. They are showing some very positive results. We are very happy with that. So probably the fact that we have already seen the situation coming much before he arrived here, and we were able to define those 4 scenarios, action plans for any situation that would happen with us, it really helped us. It really helped us be able to address the situation and the challenges before they arrived to us. Also, the fact that we were already educating the workers and telling them and making them aware about the issue in February, March, already made them more conscious of how they should be taking care of themselves and their families and their colleagues as well. So what I mean is planning ahead is key, and we are lucky and not lucky, but it's good that we have this planning ahead culture at Daterra, because it's really impacting positively and holding back the impacts that COVID could have on us as well. Other than that, it's gonna be an outstanding quality crop year. We are very excited about it. Our quality team is really excited about the cup profiles we are getting from the field. We already started harvesting our coffee in May, so we have a fair amount of coffee already harvested, and we are a little bit over 15% of the harvest done already. And the taste profile is really, really good. We are excited about this. Also, there are some new varietals that we are harvesting right now, and those varietals, they were more in our research field until last year, producing still in the micro lot size, but we already had some bigger fields planted of those varietals. Now they are grown-ups, they are producing lots of coffee, so lots of those new varietals are going to come up this year in the coffees from our menu. Our collection Daterra coffees and our class Daterra coffees, they're going to have new varietals making up the blends and the different coffees from our menu. We are very excited about that. We're gonna be seeing some new flavors and new profiles coming up as well. And we have lots of new sustainability projects as well coming up in the farm this year, especially. We feel that this whole pandemic situation is making all of us be focused in just one specific thing, which is the pandemic. And there are not lots of companies talking about how is it going to be after the pandemic, how is it going to be the future afterwards, and we have to think now about those things. So we are implementing lots of projects related to CO2 sequestration, lots of projects related to soil microbiology as well at the farm. And I'm not gonna extend a lot of information here because it would be another full circle lecture. But if anyone is curious to know what we are doing in terms of sustainability this year, you can contact us. Henry and Earway should have our contacts. Please drop us a message on our Instagram, Facebook, or email, and we can tell you more about that. Well, that's pretty much it. I hope I didn't extend too much, Henry. I think now we're going to the questions, right?
Yep, that's correct. Thank you very much, Gabriel. That was a very, as always, inspirational and informative talk. Yeah, so for those of you that are using the software for the first time, on the right-hand side of your screen, there should be a control panel. And some of you have already asked questions already, but if you have any questions that you want to ask and you haven't written in yet, you can do it there. And I'm going to ask Gabriel now and try and cover most of those questions. So the first one I'm going to pick up is from Roberto Mata from Costa Rica. So he's asked, what do you do if there is a worker with COVID-19 symptoms? I think, Gabriel, that you muted yourself.
I did, because there are some motorcycles passing by and...
Gotcha, no worries. You might need to just recap
Okay.
that.
So the first thing that we would have to do would be isolating that person. We are already doing that in some way. not because we had any cases of COVID right now, but for workers that are in risk groups, people that are elderly or with some breathing problems, and people that could have some impact from COVID that are more serious, they are already staying at home, and that's something that we are doing. So if someone with COVID is at the farm, we're gonna have to isolate that person immediately. And because in our planning that we have done, we have already mapped what all the possible contact points that you might have with someone with COVID. So the bus, for example, or the same working team working on the same field. So in that situation, if someone with COVID is identified, people are already being transported in groups, in the same groups. We are not leaving everyone go around as they would do before. So you can isolate that whole group and test everyone to make sure if they are a possible they are possible at risk or risking to contaminate more people. That's how we're going to be able to prevent that from spreading to other teams and other people. So working in smaller teams and isolating the team where the person that was contaminated was, pretty much.
In a way, it's kind of similar to your approach on how you guys almost treat the farm as a series of mini farms by passing everything.
Yeah, pretty much. So we have specific teams, and they are not getting in contact with each other, and that's gonna help us avoid the spreading of the virus.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. I've got Simon Wakefield. He has asked, what concern do you have about Brazil's ability to export this big crop? Because we've been reading quite a few reports which have mentioned that, with lack of container space, even though it's a bumper crop, will it actually be able to be exported, let alone harvested?
Well, so there were already, and there are some containers being postponed or canceled because of lack of space, and this is something that is indeed happening already since the outbreak started, because of course Brazil is a big seller of the world. We produce so many agri products and other products as well that rely on those containers for transportation, and then there is a competition of who is going to use that transportation space, right? So this is already happening there, and that's one of the major concerns that we are having at the moment, our ability to actually be able to export the coffee once it's ready and sitting on the port. And so far, there are some issues happening, but nothing that is really major. And when you think about the ports of Brazil, those are places that have high transit of people coming from everywhere, and those places, they are already in some having their outbreak situations right now. So yes, they are facing some challenges, and this could be indeed one of the major issues, the ability to export on time. So if you have a shipping schedule, for example, we might have to reschedule a few shipments to be able to transport the coffee. But we don't see, and from the reports we have been reading, we don't see a chance of closing down the ports here in Brazil, shutting down the ports, because we depend a lot on them. And of course, they are all taking lots of measures to keep their workers safe and to make sure that we are not, the virus is not spreading a lot on those specific areas as well. But one of the issues that are already being foreseen is that maybe some ports of destination might block the entrance of shipments coming from Brazil, considering that we are having such a high number of COVID cases in Brazil, with over 1 million cases, second place in the world. So this could be an issue. Maybe when our shipment gets to the UK, we don't know if in 1 month from now, the UK is gonna say, okay, nobody from Brazil gets here, no shipments from Brazil are accepted. This could happen. And it's something that we cannot say at the moment if it's indeed gonna happen, but it is indeed a risk. So we should have very good schedules, very well planned roasters that are relying on big volumes to commit to supply to your clients. Maybe you should consider having your schedules more well defined and not let your orders for last minute, because if some situation like that happens, it could be an issue, especially for the next few months that we don't see how the COVID situation is going to go down very soon here in Brazil.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Actually, I hadn't considered that even if you export the coffee, there might be problems actually with the importation at the country of destination. And tomorrow, actually, we're doing a talk with Nishant from Chef Ramen Estate, and I think he's going to touch on that because they had a trade embargo for quite a number of months. I've got another question from David Jamison. So he said that he's seen quite a few reports talking about how people are paying a bit less for coffee in the out-of-home sector, so they're going for kind of cheaper coffee options. Has Daterra considered the risk of suppressed demand for higher scoring coffees, which I guess would be your collection and masterpieces? And what plans are in place to keep promoting those high premium coffees in the post-coronavirus world?
This is a very good question. Actually, before when we were seeing the outbreak going on all over the world, and we saw that we should do something about the market and understand how we could support the roasters and the markets and our importing partners like you guys. So the first thing that we did, we sent a letter out to all our partners around the world asking what was the situation in their countries. So we got lots of reports. We communicated with 21 countries to understand the COVID situation in all those different markets. And with that in mind, we created a few plans to support the market. One of them was the Beanstalk campaign, which you guys helped us a lot to promote it. So during the outbreak, all the roasters that were selling our coffee, we tried to incentivize the consumer to buy coffee from the roasters that were still operating. So, and then Daterra committed to plant 1 tree per each kilo of coffee that was sold during the outbreak. That was one of the measures to support the roasters. Also, as measures to support the market in general, what we have done with our in this last bit of our 2019 crop, we have reduced prices for all the coffees from our menu. And this is something that we're going to keep doing for our 2020 crop. So it's David that asked, right?
Yeah.
So David, what we believe right now is people are going through a very difficult time, and they need to allow themselves to still have those little self-indulgences that will make them happy and make this moment lighter for them as well. And we believe coffee is one of those things. So we want people to have access to our best coffees, to our masterpieces, to our collection of Daterra coffees, and also to our classics and mainstream coffees as well. So what we're going to be doing for the 2020 crop, we are lowering the price for all the coffees in our menu. And the higher the coffee is in our menu, the bigger the price discounts are going to be. Why are we doing that? Is it to secure our ability to sell the coffee? Yeah, maybe also that, but that's not our main purpose. We want people to have access to those coffees. We don't want the market to be flooded with lower quality coffees and that everyone is just having access to bad coffee because of COVID. Because yes, we are seeing that lower quality coffees are being prioritized during this time. So we are lowering the price of everything, and to make sure that our importers are going to be able to buy this coffee and sell this coffee in the markets, to make sure that you guys as roasters have access to those coffees as well. And we're going to go through this happy with access to great quality coffee. That's one of our main plans now. We don't see it as a price reduction. We see as sharing a little bit of our profit with everyone in the chain. We should be helping each other right now. And every company, every roaster, every importer, everyone in the chain should be thinking right now on how to support the next part of the chain on going through the situation, so we can all go back to normal as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think that's going to be very much appreciated by everyone. If everyone has that same approach, trying to work together and yeah, basically try and survive and thrive in this crisis. I think Dave's question is very interesting because it should raise the idea of to what extent is coffee an affordable luxury? At what point in each country, in terms of price, does it become unaffordable?
Yeah,
that's correct. Thank you, Dave, for that. I've got another one here from Peter from Karls in Sweden. He's asked, you mentioned quite an interesting point about unemployment in the big cities in Brazil, and how there seems to be quite a big level of unemployment in the big cities, but at the same time, a lot of the states are struggling to get pickers and workers. So do you think that because of COVID, there could be a reversal of this kind of urbanization trend in Brazil, at least in the short term?
Well, people that usually live in the big cities and work in the big cities, they don't work on the field usually. So when you think about the farm areas, and again, Brazil is really big. So if you are talking about someone that is unemployed in São Paulo city, that's a few hundred kilometers away from the closest farm. So this person is never going to think about, okay, I'm going to move to the farm area and maybe work on coffee harvesting. They don't even know that coffee harvesting is happening at the moment, because it's almost like it's happening in a different country. So because it's far from where they are. And then people in the growing cities, yes, some people that are in the growing cities, in the coffee growing cities, that are unemployed are maybe given a chance to be harvesting coffee because they know this is happening right now, and they will see as an opportunity to do something and work on some temporary job until they can go back working on the city again. But this is something that doesn't happen quite a lot. People that are up to working on the field already have that mindset. Some people would prefer to be working on the city, maybe earning less than doing a farm job, because and then we go to a different discussion that is more of the social idea that working on the field is less rewarding or less interesting or rougher than working on the city, right? And yes, there could be one or other isolated cases of people that consider go harvesting coffee right now because they are unemployed, but that's not going to happen to most of the people. It's almost like I right now, if any of us watching this live right now, we get unemployed, and then we hear that there is someone hiring for coffee harvesting, maybe you would try for a while to find something else other than doing that, because you have never done that, and maybe you would not consider doing that. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think at least in the UK, there's the obvious comparison for me, at least, is the soft fruit sector. So we're rolling into the UK summer at the moment, and there's a big deficit of pickers for stuff like raspberries and strawberries. And they can't find pickers, even though there are lots of workers who don't have jobs. So I think I think I made the question a bit more simple, but I thought I'd test you anyway, Gabriel, since you're a very capable presenter. I've got an interesting question here from Alan. He goes, are there specific areas or growing regions in Brazil that are worse off than others? Because there's been a lot in the news about Bolsonaro and how he is trying to impose sort of federal law, but a lot of states are reacting in different ways. Is Minas Gerais better or worse affected than some of its neighboring states? Is it doing anything differently that's of interest, or is everyone affected quite similarly?
Well, it depends a lot from state to state. Minas Gerais is really trying to keep people safe right now. They are not ignoring the situation that is happening. Yes, the Brazilian government's not really addressing the situation as it should, but many states are working in different directions. So Minas Gerais is in a better situation in terms of awareness of what's going on and trying to keep people safe. Also because Minas Gerais is in a very important moment right now, which is harvesting coffee. It's the biggest coffee producing state in Brazil, and it is doing a lot of different measures to keep people safe because the state relies a lot on this product, not only for the state income point of view, but to make sure people are working and employed, and that those people are not going to be in a bad economical and social situation in the future. So it's one of the states that it is addressing the challenge and seeing that there is a challenge and a problem right now, as São Paulo State is, for example, as well.
Yeah. And do you think much has been said about the relationship between the Brazilian real and the US dollar and how much it's fluctuated, especially over the last like 2 or 3 months, I think to record lows, nearly hitting 6 reals to the dollar. Is that how much like what kind of challenge does that present you guys in terms of that exchange rate fluctuation?
Well, it is, first of all, as coffee producers, when you think about the farm side, the challenges there are mainly related to everything that we need at the farm level that is quoted or depends on foreign currency to be quoted. So for example, agronomical inputs, like I said before, fertilizers, defensives, those products, they are all quoted in foreign currency, and that will be a huge issue in the future in terms of increase of costs. We're gonna have to pay much more than usual for those products. Also, different kinds of machinery that depends on that have their prices changing because of commodity prices, because also parts that are imported or even equipment that is imported. All those things, they are gonna be costing much more. Inflation in the country also goes higher because of the exchange rate as well. So everything pretty much costs more for everyone here, and that on the farm level is the issue that we're gonna have because it increases our costs a lot. On the exporting side, on the sales side, having a lower value closer compared to the US dollar is good in one sense, because we can understand, you understand that you're gonna earn more for the coffee we're exporting because of the exchange rate when you convert that money into your local currency. But on the other hand, what's happening right now is that the
I think we're experiencing some.
It's very big. So it goes up a lot and then it goes down a lot as well, even though it's still on the high side. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you back. I think we lost you for the last 20 seconds of that.
Okay, so where were we when you?
But you were saying, obviously, the sort of weak Brazilian real makes your inputs more expensive, and means you can get more reals when you export against the dollar.
Yeah. Sort of so you get more money when you are exporting in this current situation because the exchange helps that. But on the other hand, it's much harder for us to also price coffee and understand that what the coffee we're selling now, if we're selling it on a 6 months, 8 months basis, the market could be very different because it's fluctuating a lot from one day to another. So this could be a huge challenge from the pricing side as well.
No, that's really interesting. Thanks. And that was a good question. I think a lot of people focus on the market when they're talking about coffee pricing, but obviously the domestic currency against the US dollar is such a big factor, which doesn't often get talked about as much as the market. So that was a good question. I think we've hit our hour, so I think we're probably going to wrap it up there. Just wanted to say thank you very much, Gabriel. It was an absolute pleasure listening to you talk, as always. And thank you to everyone who's joined us. This recording will be sent out to you automatically via GoToWebinar, and we will be putting it on the website probably next week, so you can share it with people if you'd like. We'd appreciate it if you could email us any feedback on the connection, because from my side it was getting a bit choppy towards the end there. So it'd be good to sort of see how good it was your end. And we've got 4 more talks this week. You can find out more on the events page. And also we've partnered with a charity in Peru. So I know that it's any donation is much appreciated if possible in these times, and if not, we of course understand. But if you enjoyed this talk and you'd like to donate to a coffee project, it's in Peru, and there's a link in the Eventbrite page. So thank you very much again, Gabriel, and thank you all for attending, and hopefully see some of you tomorrow. We've got the talk in the morning because Nishant is going to be presenting from India. So yeah, thank you, and look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.
Thank you very much, Henry. Thank you very much, dear Wakefield team. Happy anniversary to you guys.
Thanks a lot, and I'll see you all soon. Thanks, Gabriel.